thought I would do a video on this just because I've seen so many other people have the same issue I was having. So this is a Bison 650G tractor with the Mitsubishi engine in it, right? If you're here, you're probably having the same issue that I had and so many other people have. The original carburetor went tits up, so the guy that had it before me spent like $600 on this aftermarket option, which is the only option out there. It's a Cressa M34, but I think it goes under a different name. And then you have to adapt the manifold to get it to work with that base plate. You can see those holes are kind of wallowed and offset, and this thing, it never really ran right. I rebuilt it a bunch of times. The guy that had it before me built it a bunch of times. No luck. Couldn't really get it to work at all. So what I ultimately did was mounted this guy on there, and it came off of a mid to late 70s Volkswagen Beetle. And I don't know much about Volkswagen Beetles, but it's a Solex offset bowl downdraft H30 31 picked, that PITC or PICT I think is what it's called. You can find these things almost everywhere. They're a dime a dozen, and it works amazingly well. The manifold that I had to make for it, so that is just a piece of top rail from a fence, and I think it's about 1.25 inches. But this, the top plate of this, a plate for the top, that's at 1/4 inch steel. It was just a big chunk of angle iron. I just took the gasket off the original and then traced it onto the metal, and then just welded it up as best I could with my mediocre welding skills. And the key is this top plate has to be 90 degrees offset from the bottom one for this carburetor to work, because of where the throttle linkage mounts up. So this is kind of wonky here. You see I got like this little bungee here. This is all for the choke. I haven't finished dialing in where the choke needs to be, but right now I can do cold starts, hot starts. It runs amazing. This is, it's a fuel shutoff. There's a plunger in there. It's solenoid activated. You just want 12 volts going to it when it's running, and that opens the fuel valve. So all I did, I just ran this wire up here, top positive post of the coil, and that'll give you your switched 12 volts positive, and it gets ground just from being mounted there. So that's just one connection, and then the rest of it, like, I'm gonna do a better job of this. I didn't know if this was gonna work, so I just threw this piece of wire in here and connected it to the linkage right out of the, like, with the factory adjustments. However, the guy my buddy that gave it to me, it ran fine, so I haven't had to touch anything. Right now the choke's not really doing anything. This is an automatic choke, so there is a lead on the back there, but I haven't hooked it up. So right now I just kind of futz with this, and then, you know, using this bungee and this linkage, if I need to just choke it a tiny little bit, I do that. And then once I give it gas the first time, this ratchet lets go, and then it falls back in. So that's like choke on this way. I push that in, and then the first time I give it gas, it just falls into place and runs great. But like I said, I'm gonna go through and do a better job of that. But this is a key to victory right here. If you've got one of these old Satoh tractors, don't bother spending all your freaking money on a carburetor that's probably not going to end up working. Just get you one of these old Volkswagen Solexes, and Bob's your uncle. Using a piece of 1/4 inch steel, I basically cut 2 plates. One side's going to be for the Solex, and then the other side's going to be for the original base plate size of the OEM carburetor, and then the gaskets. I started with 1/4 inch steel. Any less than that, and it's just not going to be solid enough anymore. It's just excessive. So 1/4 inch, if you can find a piece. I used a very large piece of angle iron that happened to be 1/4 inch, so I just cut a piece of that. And then I'm gonna do this up in PDF. I'm gonna make it so you guys can just print it out and then trace it onto your steel, make it a little bit easier for you. But so the original size, now this is a manifold off of a mid-70s Volkswagen Beetle. The guy that gave me the carburetor gave me the manifold with it. My original idea was just to cut this plate off and use it, but when I started looking at it, I figured I had to make a base plate anyway, so I might as well just cut them both up, and that way I don't have to destroy a perfectly good manifold. This is the original size hole. Okay, this is 1 3/8. The original hole on this, on the base plate that goes to the tractor, is 1 5/16. I split the difference. So once you cut these out and you've just got the outline shape for these two, you're gonna split the difference between these two and use a 1 1/4 inch hole saw. Okay, this has to be a bimetal hole saw. You can get these online, I think, but just make sure they're okay for use on metal. Slow and low, use lots of oil, and you can easily go through 1/4 inch steel. The next step, you're going to want to cut out cut out your holes, and then you're going to want to do your bolt holes. I used 5/16 drill bit, worked just fine for the top and for the bottom. And again, you want to orient these 90 degrees off from each other. So your base plate has to be 90 degrees off, right? And for the section of tube that connects the two, what I used is a piece of top rail, and I put this in the vise so I could show you how I use that later to cut the gasket. But what you want to do is cut a short section of it. I'll put the length, or the height rather, of that top rail in the PDF for you guys. But you want that top rail, it's probably marketed as 1 1/4 inch, I think, because the idea of it is the internal diameter is 1 1/8 inch, and then the OD is 1 5/16. So just a smidge over 1 1/4 inch. That's the top rail fence, just for like a regular residential fencing area that you see, the chain link fence. That's all I used. You could probably find something that'll work, but the size of that, because the OD was 1 5/16, actually worked perfect for the 1 1/4 inch hole saw size that I cut to go between these. And then when you cut your gasket out, it's going to be the same thing. So this is actually the original gasket off the bottom plate. So this is how I got that size. And then you can just take the PDF, do another set of cutouts, put that on your gasket material. I just got this. It's like a synthetic cork or some kind of rubber, and it's got bits of cork in it. I got this from Ace Hardware, I think. You can just buy tiny little sheets of it. You don't need much. And you can see where I cut the one out there, and this was the other one. So to punch out this middle hole and do it nice and clean, what I did was I put this the remaining piece of the top rail that I had here in my vise, and I just used a round file, or you can use a flat file that has the rounded other side, and just go around like this and just sharpen this. But sharpen it on the inside, don't sharpen on the outside. Put it on top of your gasket, just like that, and then bang, just cut your hole out. We'll start video just to show how it runs with the Solex. So there she is, Solex 3031 picked. She's cold. It's first thing in the morning. I haven't run her. It's been a couple weeks now. Go in here and then push this down so it's kind of sitting on that, and that just closes the choke flap just a bit. And then what more could you ask for?
Hey guys, so this is just something else I wanted to show you here. I mentioned earlier that these things are pretty easy to find, so this is just an eBay search. There's your search term up there. You just want to search for the picked Solex 3031, and as you can see, there's quite a few in here. You may be able to find some more locally on Craigslist or something. If you know somebody that's into Volkswagen Beetles, chances are they've got one of these laying around in their toolbox, and they'd probably just give it to you. If this video is useful, give me a thumbs up and like. You can subscribe or not. I don't really put out a lot of videos. I just wanted to do this one because I thought it was helpful. So hope this helps somebody, and if it does so, cheers. Get you a couple more years out of your Satoh. I'm going to put a link to the PDF down in the description for you guys. Hopefully that helps out. Be sure when you're printing that to print it at actual size and make sure there's no scaling. Otherwise the template's not going to print true to scale, and your plates are going to be the wrong size. If you got any questions about what I did, just ask down in the comments. Would love to also hear from you if it's worked or not. So comment down there if you do this and it works. Would love to hear that. Have a great day, everybody.